stole from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from.
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
We struggled, as to strike.
The Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
Good morning to you for joining us this morning. It's a Tuesday, great one, promising Tuesday here on Global Morning. This is Global Television. We're live in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. I am Uyi Agmofwegwe. I'll allow the elegant, delectable lady, gorgeous woman on the show introduce herself.
Oh, you're making me blush this Tuesday.
I try not to do that, but the temptation won't let me be.
Temptation will not let you be.
Yes.
All right, to each and every one of you out there, good morning. Like Uyi has mentioned, it's a beautiful Tuesday morning, and the weather's a bit cloudy. I think it's going to rain today.
Why does that happen just a few minutes after I get into the office?
Because you're a lucky guy.
No, because I follow the weatherman.
Yes, because you follow the weather. And of course, it's a beautiful day. Just let's be happy, let's stay calm and be informed as you are watching us live in the nation's capital, Abuja, on Global Television. Good morning. It's great to have each and every one of you staring at us right now at this point. All right, Udi. But at the point when you were introducing yourself, when you said, I was wondering, why are you taking so long to pronounce your name? Like, really?
You know, people say they've never heard that name, and it takes them to listen to it a couple of times to actually catch it. So I try to take my time to just drop it as it hot. That sort of thing. I'm just kidding. But you see, I think for many of our viewers, Joe, I'm watching right now, and who are going to stay with us for the rest of the day, their major concern is the impact that this fuel issue is having on them. This morning, I was just looking at the news, and one of the very concerning headlines is how that now that depot price is kissing, so to speak, 1,000 naira.
Yes, it is.
It means that for people who use at the consumer end, of course, they have to buy from the service stations. We have to even pay more. And Dangote, I mean, the man at the center of the whole narrative,
exactly,
is now saying that since marketers are refusing to come lift products from his refinery, the only option they have probably is to have to export the product because the product must go somewhere. So if you can't dispense it or use it locally, or back at home, it means you have to export. It appears we are not ready to solve this problem just yet, because as it stands right now, it's becoming not just an economic problem, it's becoming an embarrassment for the image of our country.
Yes, it is.
Nigeria is one of the biggest producers of oil in the world.
Yes.
So how that one day we're talking about how fuel is being, crude is being refined in Malta and then shipped to Nigeria. Then the next day, we're talking about how that, well, there's a cabal trying to frustrate something that's supposed to be one of the biggest refineries in the world, the biggest on the soil of Africa. Then the day that follows, we're talking about, no, should we change the leadership of the NNPCL or should we leave it? The day after that, we're asking, should the president be the de facto minister of petroleum resources or not? So it just shows that we seem to be enjoying the vicious cycle.
And it seems that we are enjoying the fact that we are not ready to move forward and to evolve when it comes to the oil sector. It's just unfortunate. We were driving. Okay, we had an assignment outside the office. And if you see the queue, it was bad. I had to resort to the black market guys, which is unfortunate. I had to, despite the fact that, fingers crossed, I hope they were not the fuel which I'm buying.
Not being compromised.
Exactly. It was just
even when you were paying exorbitantly for it.
Oh, yes, I did. And unfortunately, so this is where we found ourselves as a country, as Nigerians, and it's just unfortunate that this will linger this much. I didn't expect it to linger this much. We thought it was just
a flash in the pan.
a flash in the pan, like you've mentioned. But unfortunately, this is where we found ourselves, and this is where we are as Nigeria. So we do not know where to create that balance between the NNPCL, Dangote Refinery, or all of these things encompass. We do not know. It's heartbreaking, though, to talk about it. But unfortunately, this is the Nigeria in which we found ourselves. I don't think we are ready to involve when it comes to the petroleum sector. It's going to take a walk in the park, really.
It's a shame. As we speak right now, I think the president is spending his third day in Beijing, China, where he's attending a conference that is hopefully, all else equal, establish some mutually beneficial, sort of economic, relationship between Asia, particularly China and Africa. But we hope by the time he returns, because in the next 3 days, unless of course he has to go to France or UK from there, he'll be back to Abuja, that he will make it a matter of priority number one. So look, we have been in the woods for too long. We have to take the bulls by the horn, take our destiny in our own hands, because we are obviously not doing that yet. I don't know what cabal means in any industry, whether it is finance or oil and gas or telecoms. But no cabal, from what I understand, should be bigger than the interest of a country. And that's why we have what we call national interest. All right? Former President Muhammadu Buhari used to talk about that a lot. National interest, national security. At the point, the issue of rule of law and national security became a thing, so to speak. So if we have national interest, like we do now, the issue of fuel is national interest.
Yes,
because it has no regards for class, top to bottom. Everybody needs to use fuel for a wide range of purposes. So if that's what it is, I think the president wants to call the leaders of this cabal, because the government has the intel on all of this, whether it's corporate entities, IOCs, or the key players in the industry, starting from perhaps the group chief executive officer of the NNPCL himself. And then you want to talk about those who are drilling oil in Nigeria. You want to talk about those who are in regulation. What exactly is the issue we're dealing with? Behind every problem, there's a cause. However, which is the bad news, is the fact that Nigeria doesn't look ready to deal with the cause. And the fact that, of course, we know behind every cause there is a solution once you dip neck into it to find that appropriate solution. It's just when you mentioned cabal, you look at it, you know, when you said national interest, most individuals in this private sector that are top-notch do not have national interest. They're profit-oriented. Of course. Are you kidding me, Uyi? When I can make billions of naira in this and you're telling me about national interest. You're talking about national interest, and I can build an empire for my family and friends and loved ones. I save money for 4 generations after me. What are you saying, 4 generations? When I'm talking about 10 generations, I can stash money and do all of that. It's just unfortunate that this is where we found ourselves. I keep saying it. Once you have integrity is key. You might say, oh, Juma, you're just saying it because you're not on that forefront or that but you don't understand. But isn't it also possible that, I mean, you've not seen a box full of dollar bills, for example. But the truth is, we might not be in that particular position now. But, you know, we have been in positions that it blows our minds also as individuals. At that level? At that level, on the level that we're in. And I don't think we have compromised in any way. I know I have not. For individuals, I have not compromised when it comes to doing the right thing, when it comes to... Many of us have not. So integrity is key. Once you have it, and you have the individuals in heart who you are representing, your conscience will not even allow you. But now no one cares about national interest. It's all about what I can make for myself. And my small group. And not even my large and small, whatever impact I can make for people around me, not people that I am representing. I do not care. But as long as I have something to stash out and the profits in which I'm making, I am good. Whatever you face, it's your business. That's the orientation most of these individuals have. And it is unfortunate. You see, I think we need to beat this conversation into perspective time and again, because oil should be a blessing to a country like Nigeria. In fact, there are countries, particularly in West Africa, that should enjoy certain advantages just because Nigeria has oil. That's how it works. I mean, my people say, if Juma has light in a house, it will brighten up the compounds of the 2 houses on both sides, right? That's how it works, right? So what that means is, I mean, I keep cycling back to the Financial Times documentary that even featured former President Olusegun Obasanjo, where the jinx that oil has brought needs to be broken. I mean, that's the focus of the documentary, how that you can't have this humongous blessing, not just in front of you, right in your hands, and you're still struggling with teething problems. Countries are coming here to take advantage of the crude that we have to better their lots, all right? You have countries in this world, countries like Belgium, they don't have natural resources as we know them. What do they have? They just have a seaport in Antwerp, their capital, that helps them to ship items across the world. And that's where the term Belgian car came to Nigeria and across West Africa in particular. So what's the point? The point here is we must look inward, tell ourselves the truth. I think that's the broken link. The fact that we've not found the courage, like our guest said yesterday, this gentleman, Akamadu, that look, we must find the balls, the nerve to face the reality we're dealing with. And until we do that, we're going to be living in denial, and we are going to continue to live a mediocre life as a country, and that's a big shame.
It is a big shame, and like you mentioned, we're still living in denial. Some people cannot imagine. They feel that this petroleum, this issue of fuel, it's a walk in the park, everything is going to be fine. But look at things, it's prolonging for so long. It's in and out, in and out, in and out. It's just unfortunate that most of us are living in denial, and we do not want to imagine that this is the Nigeria in which I keep saying this is Nigeria we found ourselves. Once we wake up and try and strive to make it better, I think everything will just balance up and come into place, basically, over time.
All right, you're watching Global Mornings, the Tuesday's edition. We're taking a quick break now. When we return, it'll be time to look at the papers for you and bring you big headlines across our national dailies. Do stay with us. Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofwebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television. Getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
time to turn to the papers, everyone. Ramsey Agbo is co-hosting today on Global Morning. Again, yesterday on the desk, Ramsey. By the way, good morning. Good to see you.
Good morning, Uyi. You look good.
Thank you. The whole time I've been looking at your suit and the color in particular.
Oh my God.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome. So yesterday, I was just saying that was your debut on the desk and all of that. But I think Global Morning is one platform for us to let our viewers know that you're part of the show now going forward, and they'll be seeing more of you in the days, weeks, and months ahead. So again, Ramsey Agbo, it's good to have you on the program.
Thank you so much, Uyi.
All right. So let's turn to the papers, everyone. We're beginning with the Punch newspaper with the stories above the nameplates. First, with the picture of Dangote here. It says petrol will be exported if marketers boycott products. That's Dangote Refinery there talking. So it sounds like a way of saying that, look, we don't have a choice. If marketers won't buy, if they boycott products, we will have no other option than to export. Hospitals, tertiary institutions, electricity subsidy may go up 188 billion naira. That's a whole lot of money. NNPCL may stop petrol imports as depots price nears 1,000 naira per litre. Just a while ago, Juma and I were having a little chit-chat about that. PDP governors, Wike may clash as NWC meets WED. That's on Wednesday. Two riders accompany that headline. NEC pressures NWC to hand over Rivers PDP to Fubara. PDP governors will address ministers' threats at meetings, says Forum DG. Ramsey, I want to step on my brakes here so we can look at this wiki element for a second, right? We spent some time talking about it yesterday. Our people say he who pays the piper dictates the music. Wike is a man who had been very vocal in the PDP, especially since the party returned to the opposition or became the opposition in 2015, having lost to the APC. Wike became the de facto leader of the party. At the point, it was almost as if Nigerians or politicians were having the debate as to between Atiku Abubakar, the former vice president of this country, and Mr. Wike, the former governor of Rivers State, who exactly is the leader of the PDP, even though, of course, the party has had either a substantive chairman or an interim chairman the entire time. But this morning, we're hearing that the NEC, that is the National Executive Committee of the party, is putting pressure on the National Working Committee to hand over the leadership, or as they say, the structure of the party in Rivers State to the governor. Isn't that an interesting scenario?
It's an interesting scenario. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the antecedents of Wike in PDP, Wike is one person that have not defected like others who have gone here and there. You know how it happens in Nigeria.
They're driving back and forth.
Back and forth. I think oftentimes I said, if they really want the political system of Nigeria to be stable, this defecting, from one party to the other should be stopped. Because you keep on having the same people recycling themselves in governance. All right, back to Wike's issue now. Someone said something, and I was looking at it from a perspective that Wike is a stronghold in the PDP. You remember what happened during the 2023 election. Even before the election, they had a faction.
Right.
The G5 governors.
The G5, yes. Where he was the de facto leader.
Yes. And Wike is someone that will come. Before now, I thought Wike was going to be sanctioned for anti-party activities, but nothing happened until now. So the question is, why now? Why now? Look at Atiku, look at Wike. I think the fight has been between Atiku and Wike underground. Underground.
Even though you at least see Alhaji Atiku Abubakar coming to talk about it in the media.
He's not saying much. It's not saying much. But the underground battle is between the two. And these are two elephants in the party. And if care is not taken, PDP is going to lose it completely.
With all of these tussle.
With all of this tussle. Because so many things, a lot of people are preparing towards 2027.
Right.
And we know what is happening in the APC. APC is not talking much right now. But I will need to tell you the truth that they are looking forward to 2027 seriously. even though they've not gone far. All right. So the issue of Wike, one thing you need to look at, first of all, is who is even financing PDP?
As it stands, right?
As it stands. That's a question that a lot of people...
And all of these parties depend on finance to stay afloat.
And you know what it means? Who is bringing, you know, the more money? Who is bringing more money to the table? Okay. Who is even paying the national chairman?
And all of the ESCO members.
All of the ESCO members. These are the things we should look at. Because you know what it means for someone to come out and say, if any PDP governor supports Fubara, I am going to set that person's state on fire. You know what that statement means? It takes a man who is a lion, who has a lion heart, who has something backing him or something to make such a statement. And if PDP really want to be respected in this country, then this rift should be settled.
Okay.
Because they are not opposition enough until this whole problem is settled.
So you're saying they should put their house in order, well, yeah, before they come to the public to start talking about 2027 and all of that. I think all we can do at this point, Ramsey, is to keep our fingers crossed, because we understand that Wike will be appearing before this disciplinary panel tomorrow, Wednesday, and it's Chief Tommy Kimi, founding member of the party, who will be leading this disciplinary panel. And first of all, some people are saying, are you sure Wike will even show up? But whether he shows up or not, the party now has a responsibility to show leadership. You know, beyond discipline, they must also look at what are the issues. I mean, Mr. Segun Showumi, another founding member of the party, who says he's also vying for the chairmanship of the party, was here just last week, and he talked about how that the party must not play the Pope at this point. The party must not put up this holier than thou attitude that everybody, I mean, virtually everybody in the party has done one wrong thing or another at one point in time or another. You either did it in 2019 or you did it in 2015 or even prior to those times. However, what should happen, according to him, is that the party must come together and say, we're taking responsibility, we want to fix our party, we want to move forward. If tomorrow's interface between the disciplinary committee and Mr. Nyesom Wike is not aligned in this direction, I think all we can do is see what happens the day that follows, what they call the morning after, which is going to be on Thursday. Right.
A lot of people look forward to that day.
Of course, by all means. Okay, so let's take a look at a few more headlines for you from the Punch newspaper this morning. Hunger protests. Britain denies fleeing as courts remands 10. Okay, and then when you look at the foot of the page, that's still the Punch newspaper this morning. Here it says external debt servicing rises to $2.78 billion. That's according to CBN reports. It just keeps piling up, and we keep borrowing left, right, and center. Arrested Canada-based Nigerian woman threatening Yoruba risks 2-year jail. Tinubu meets Xi Jinping today, signs bilateral agreements. We hope that agreement brings, or those agreements, because we hear they are in multiple, bring Nigeria all of the economic advantage it can ever wish for. Okay, let's flip to our next paper now, and that would be, let's see what we have next. That would be the Daily Trust newspaper.
All right, from the Daily Trust newspaper, we'll have some juicy headlines here today, and I want to begin from the big story. The big story says Boko Haram kills many farmers, others in fresh Yobe attack. Then some riders to that story, about 3 riders to that story, burn houses, shops. Then the second rider says state government plans mass burial. Then this one says insecurity, disrupting agricultural activities. This is coming from the northern governors. We know how insecurity has taken tolls on farmers in the north, and so good. The president have given an instruction, a standing order that the service chiefs should relocate to the north. It was in the papers yesterday.
Particularly to Sokoto,
right? To Sokoto, particularly. I think that's a good one. Then more state coming from the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. IGP Egbe-Tokun gets 3-year tenure extension. Then this one says amidst fuel scarcity. NNPCL to become sole buyer from Dangote Refinery. That's the report we're getting this morning.
Right.
NNPCL to become sole buyer from Dangote Refinery. You and Jumai were talking about the fact that Dangote Refinery, you know, planning because some marketers are not patronizing.
Yes, they are boycotting the product, and they say the only option you're leaving us with is to export.
Is to export, and it will amaze you that some foreign countries are actually demanding for the oil already. So I think it's going to boil down to the masses.
Right.
Nigerians are going to feel the heat of this. But then questions should be asked. Why are the marketers boycotting it? Okay, because we thought this is good news for Nigerians, you know, because having what we go look for outside right in Nigeria here should be a plus. So we're thinking the marketers should rush and embrace it. But it's so amazing that it's been boycotted today.
Very embarrassing.
It's embarrassing. All right, still more coming from the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. This one says, Atiku Obi Kwankwaso to unite against Tinubu in 2027. This is coming from PDP.
So mega parties in the works. Mega party. So 2014 is going to play out again in 2024, maybe. Because in 2014, that was when we got all the... I'm just saying 10 years down the line, because in 2014, that was when you had the amalgamation. Right, the AMPP, you have the CPC, you had the ACN, as it used to be, all of them coming together with a few other parties here and there to form what we now know as the APC. That was in 2014. Now, 10 years down the line, 2024, that same conversation is what we're having now with the likes of Kwankwaso and Peter Obi being said to want to either come back to the PDP or to want to form something that is mega. Because just yesterday, somebody was saying in one of the papers that it is only a mega political party that can defeat the APC going into 2027. And I'm also sure that the APC, on the other hand, is not sleeping on its oars, because it realizes that the battle is going to get more fierce as the policy slides towards 2027. So I think everybody is bringing their A game. Everybody is not only throwing their hat in the ring, they are also ensuring that they get their act together.
That's right. One thing that I was even thinking about is if Atiku, Obi, and Kwankwaso are coming together, who would they front?
Well, you know, as I say, Ramsey, there's no permanent friend, no permanent enemy, only permanent interest and all of that. As for who they will front, which was also a bone of contention from 2022 to 2023, that probably is something they would have to resolve right now. Maybe at this point, the three gentlemen are saying to themselves, look, we all have ambition, no doubt about that. But can we not become elder statesmen? Can we not become like the engine room for a different person altogether to be fronted with us doing the pushing from the back? I'm just speculating. I'm just saying that could be a strand in the conversation for them. Because we all know how the Labour Party had a re-emergence, so to speak, all of a sudden in 2022, going into 2023, you know, young people all over the place and all of that, how Labour became a factor, in fact, a force in that election. I mean, 6 million votes are no joke. I mean, under such circumstances. So, who knows? Maybe the Labour is also saying, look, hold on a second. We did 6 million. PDP did 6 million. If we put that together, it's 12 million. Which means if Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi had come together, we would have defeated the APC. Maybe that's the conversation they're having. But they also realize that the APC will also want to do a counter. Because this is about political strategy. This is about handshakes across divides, whether it's ethnic, religious, or region, or what have you. So, in the final analysis, all we can do is to continue to keep our eye out on the polity and see who is having what conversation and where the entire politics is heading.
I think you just spoke my mind, because what I was even thinking of is none of them should even front themselves.
Right.
They can be kingmakers, like you said. Just front someone, put someone in front, then fight from behind to unseat the ruling party.
Since that's the objective.
Since that's the objective. All right. Finally, from the Daily Trust newspaper this morning, I have this headline. I actually saw this yesterday, and I was like, I was being careful to talk about it yesterday. But it's appearing boldly on the papers this morning. I said, presidency denies rift between Tinubu and Shettima. And I was wondering, I think too much wahala in the country right
in
now.
every rumor, there's an element of truth.
Element of truth. Something must have transpired.
Right, whatever
whatever it is. And you know, it must happen. You know,
naturally.
And, you know.
And it's too icy.
Too icy. It will always happen. But maybe the way it's been blown out of proportion, it may not be to that extent. But whatever it is, I think too much trouble in the land. So if the house is divided against itself, there's going to be a lot of problems.
Right.
All right, that's the much we'll be taking from the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. Over to you, Uyi.
So let's take a look at a couple of other papers this morning. This time we're turning to, let's see what we have, the Blueprint. Yes, that's what we're doing. Let's take a look at the Blueprint newspaper for you. The Blueprint has quite a number of stories here, but the big one is the first we're looking at. Says police place 20 million naira bounty on wanted Britain. Nigerian over plots to topple Tinubu. Well, the gentleman has spoken from England. All right. Northern governors receive security report, vow to combat terrorism. Flooding, Dadinkowa Dam on verge of collapse. The writer says death toll rises to 200, over 208,000 displaced in 28 states. And then let's take it to the foot of the paper this morning. Tinubu not talking security issues, or not taking security issues lightly. That's the Vice President, Kashim Shettima, there speaking. FG presents 20 CNG buses to Oyo government. Man testing charm power shot dead in Edo. That's quite a pathetic story there. Okay, and then at the very foot of the paper, address economic fundamentals, not retail prices. OPS tells FCC PC. You know, this issue of trying to regulate pricing, you now find the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, the FCCPC, saying that they are giving 1 month moratorium, all right, to businesses, especially those who sell essentials, all right, to review their prices or to crash their prices and all of that. Some civil society organizations and even development economists are now saying that that's not the way to go. Your mandate should be about quality control and all of that, not regulating prices. You actually cannot regulate prices. You also need to, yes, you have a mandate to check competition, but you must also understand that there's an economic element in all of these. For example, if I buy this mug for 1,000 naira, maybe what they call landing cost, which means all costs factored into it. You don't expect me to sell for 1,000 naira. However, you also, I also should not be unrealistic enough to want to sell for 35,000. So at some point, the FCCPC, as an agency of the federal government, responsible for ensuring that it protects the interest of the consumer, which is essentially its mandate, must find the courage, the wisdom, and the leadership to strike a balance between ensuring that consumers don't suffer unduly, and then those who are in business also continue to stay afloat by ensuring that they don't run at a loss. I think that's very important, I think, for us to look at as we continue to deal with these issues.
Yeah, I think you've said it all, because you're buying from a different place. I'm buying from a different place. The distance to where I am going to sell to the final consumer is different from your own distance. So the price cannot be the same everywhere.
That's right.
I think the only thing that can be curtailed is, okay, let it not be excess. You know, everyone is doing business to make gain.
Cutthroat prices.
Cutthroat prices. So I think that can be regulated. Then you look at the quality of these products being sold to the people. Recently, you know what's happening. The quality of materials, products, food items, everything has been reduced. Okay, despite the fact that the price is on the rise. Things like that can be checked. But then for you to say, the price, uniform price for every product, I don't think that is achievable. But then if they can come out to like monitor the sales, okay, where are you transporting it from? You remember during the fuel, some persons were complaining that, okay, we are transporting all the way from Lagos to the north. You don't expect us to sell the way they sell at the North Central, the way we should sell at the Far North and all of that, depending on the pricing. Then the market forces also should be looked at, all right? And the key players should also be talked to, because these people have associations.
They do.
There's a way they can do it to make it at least bearable for the people, because the heat is so much.
It is. We can't pretend about that. Ramsey, you have the next paper, and that is the Leadership newspaper this morning.
Okay, let's get to the Leadership newspaper this morning, and let's see where it's really leading us to. Above the head, I have this headline, which says, Northern governors unite against insecurity. That's so good. Then this one says, late Yaradua's mother dies at 102. That's on a sad note. May her soul rest in peace. Then I have this one below the header, which says, NNPC's debt admission worsen fuel scarcity. I take that again. NNPC's debt admission worsens fuel scarcity. They said they are owing
$6 billion.
We're talking about dollars, not naira.
That's a lot of money.
A lot of money. So I was thinking,
close to 10 trillion in naira.
In naira, that's much. How did they accumulate to this extent?
And then to even think that you had to foot drag before you eventually admitted. Yeah, that was an issue.
So that's an issue. A lot of things going on, and this calls for suspicion.
Right.
They are making room for suspicion.
Lack of transparency.
Lack of transparency. Like we talked about it yesterday, there needs to be transparency for the people to believe in the system.
Right.
You know. All right. More headlines still coming from the Leadership newspaper this morning. This is the big story. Police uncover foreigners plotting regime change.
That's interesting.
Please, you know, we are, I don't know, this administration have been so particular about regime change, you know, the end bad governance.
Radical takeover
of government. You know, and some presidents have been at the background pushing things that will give this administration some form of imbalance, you know. But I think whether you like it or not, there are opposition parties, and these people are working very hard towards 2027. Right. It doesn't matter.
And they are starting early.
They are starting early.
Right.
The earlier, the better for them. So if you hear things like this, we are not surprised about it. Please uncovers foreigners plotting regime change. All right, let's look at the riders to that story. Declare British citizen Andrew Wayne wanted. We talked about that yesterday. Another rider says, I'm ready to answer questions. All right, this is coming from the suspect. Arraigned 10 end bad governance protesters. We talked about that yesterday. Then this story says, 2027, Atiku Obi-Kwankwaso in talks to produce candidates. Okay, that's PDP saying it. We already talked about that.
Right.
To produce candidates.
That's right.
All right, so who is this candidate? Let's look forward to that time. Then I also have this headline, which is of interest to me. The kicker says NYSC. Then the story says JAMB denies role in HND graduates exclusion. You heard about that?
Right.
The exclusion of HND graduates.
Because they didn't have evidence of 1 year mandatory IT. Yeah.
I think that's good enough because IT, if the IT is properly done,
right?
Okay, that's skill acquisition, sort of, you know, whatever. We're talking about it yesterday behind closed doors.
That's right.
How people get out of school these days and
no skills.
You know, what they even study in school, you can't hold them.
What value would you bring
to the table? A lot of people are lagging in that aspect, and I think this is a good one. If it has been followed squarely, and at the end of the day, the right thing
across board,
it's been done across board. Even university students also acquiring skill, very important in this dispensation. And finally, from the Leadership newspaper this morning, Nigeria strengthening ties with Indonesia. This is coming from Idris, and details read on page 22. If any of these stories interest you, you can pick a copy of the Leadership newspaper and go through it for more details.
Let's turn to the New Telegraph now for you. The New Telegraph has got quite a number of stories. Let's begin with The one above the nameplate, it says PMS, more crisis as 6.6 trillion nairas needed for Q4 2024 imports. Incidentally, Q4 begins on the 1st of October. That's the fourth and the last quarter of the year. So 6.6 trillion naira will be needed to import petroleum products, fuel in particular, for those 3 months. Okay. What's more, IPMA kicks as Dangote clears only NNPCL to buy petrol. What should demand do? Another governors, let's see this, vow to tackle insecurity, of course, after they've received a security report in that regard. Millions spent on indigents, financial burden to National Hospital. All right, that's according to CMD. And then to the big story here, says flooding may get worse in coming days. That's an agency there, a warning. What's the writer? Says urges FG to declare state of emergency on it immediately. We've seen Jigawa, we've seen Kebbi, we've seen quite a number of states. In fact, even Delta. We understand that NIMET, that's the Nigerian Meteorological Agency, is now asking certain state governors to say, look, this is the time for you to start building or setting up IDPs, camps for internally displaced persons. Otherwise, the flood is going to be so overwhelming that you may not have the time to do that when the impact starts showing up. Let's see another one here. FHQ. We've arrested 10 suspects over alleged destabilization plot. That's coming from Force Headquarters. PDP Disciplinary Committee summons Wike over anti-party activities. And then my favorite part is the headline just by the foot of the page. It says, being flexible boosts longevity. That's according to a study that you can read up on page 26. So flexibility is the way to go, guys. That's what it's saying. All right, so we are flexible enough to take you to the next paper now, and that is the Daily Times.
All right, thank you. Oye, flexibility. When you talked about that, I was nodding my head. Flexibility, very important.
Right.
Because you need to be flexible. You know, you have all the time, no pressure.
Right.
You know, do whatever you want to do comfortably.
Right.
Because you're flexible. You're not under compulsion to do anything.
Yeah, right.
Your brain is not overtaxed. And it keeps you younger.
Yeah, it does.
Maybe that's part of your secret.
Well, we'll find out.
You're looking very young. All right, to the next paper, which is the Daily Times newspaper right here. And of course, we have some juicy headlines from here. PDP summons Wike. It says to discipline members for anti-party activities. This is on almost all the papers this morning. We just took this. A flood claims 200 lives. Displaces over 2,800 people in 28 states. This is coming from an agency. The boss is the one speaking right here. I think one of the major problems we have in this country is always waiting for things to happen. Then we begin to run helter-skelter for control measures. Well, reports came earlier.
Right.
What needed to be done would have been done to avert this disaster.
That's right.
You know, but a lot of people sit on it. Sometimes funds are even being generated, then diverted, as the case may be. Then when these things happen, we begin to hear of, okay, IDP camp, you know, displaced people, they need to be settled somewhere, and NEMA take, you know, and all of that.
At that point, what you're doing is what they call knee-jerk reaction. You're just being reactive when you had the entire time in the world to have been proactive. Right.
All right, more headlines still coming from the Daily Times newspaper this morning. This one says, Reps hail Tinubu over 50% electricity subsidy for tertiary institutions and hospitals. I saw that headline earlier and I was excited about that. But then what happens if it's all-encompassing, if it's happening everywhere? Okay, not just because if you want to talk about power and, of course, tertiary institution, it's major. Details read on page 4. And that takes me to the big story. The big story says federal government charges 10 end bad governance protesters with treason. Some riders to that story. Court orders defendants to be remanded at Kuje Suleja prisons. The second rider says police declare Britain Nigerian wanted for plotting to destabilize Tinubu's government. I said it earlier.
Right.
A lot of attention given to people who want to destabilize this government. Then the last rider says, I wanted Britain replies, please, says, I am not a fugitive. All right. I think that's going to be the size of the headlines from the Daily Times newspaper this morning.
So we'll move to the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian here has a big story that says, insecurity, secessionist agitations, deep FDI trade in Southeast states. All right, insecurity, secessionist agitations, deep FDI, that's foreign direct investment, trade in Southeast states. I mean, that's a no-brainer, given the myriad of insecurity instances we've had in that part of the country. One would expect that naturally this will happen. So all 5 governors have their pictures here because it's across the entire Southeast. And then PDP says Wike not above party as disciplinary committee issues summons. Fuel scarcity, sack Kyari now, coalition demands. PDP woos Obi Kwankwaso as COP rates Tinubu low. Demand for Dangote's PMS intensifies as petrol hits 1,000 naira per litre. Households lament may spend 54.9% income on food, shun investments. You have to eat to invest, of course. Tinubu, Buhari, Shetima, Oshimbajo may decide Gandoje's fate. That's interesting. I mean, this is the first time I'll be seeing Oshimbajo's name in a news headline in a very long time. Oyedele Committee awaits FG's approval on VAT increments. VAT right now, Ramsey, I mean, at the point, VAT was 5% in this country just a couple of years ago. And then the next thing we know, there was an upward review to 7.5%. And then we were told, well, 5 to 7.5% is not a big deal. After all, at that time, we also got to hear that Nigeria had the lowest or one of the lowest VAT rates in the world. And then from 7.5, there has been the back and forth about should we do an upward review or should we crash it a little or leave it where it is and things like that. But now we understand that reports by the Oyedele Committee, the man who is the chairman of the Tax Reforms Committee, is ready for approval by the president, of course. Now, there's a pretty good chance from all we have known in the last few months that he has been in the saddle that there's going to be an increase in VAT. Many persons have argued that this is the handiwork of Bretton-Woods institutions like the World Bank, the IMF, and what have you. But here's the real point for me. If we were to move VAT or raise it a notch from 7.5 to maybe 8%, maybe 8.5, because before now we're hearing 10%. Any increase, no matter what the margin is going to mean extra burden on businesses and ultimately on consumers, because VAT usually drops on the lap of the consumer. So you go to a quick service restaurant, for example, you spend 5,000 naira buying maybe a pack of lunch. It means there's a VAT you're paying already, whether it is stated or not, which means that the brunt finally is taken by the consumer. I'm saying that to say that it's just going to apparently worsen the plight of the consumer in Nigeria, who is already dealing with a lot of financial challenges as it stands right now.
That's the problem, because when these things happen, the average Nigerian suffer. Who pays tax in Nigeria? If the people who are really supposed to pay taxes are paying taxes in Nigeria, Nigeria will be richer than this.
Much richer, right?
But sometimes you think you and I, who do, maybe you want to recharge your phone, you want to get data, maybe you want to quickly get something from the restaurant, and you see VAT being calculated into whatever it is you're buying.
That's right.
But the people who really have this money, are they really paying the tax?
So there's a lot of tax evasion, tax avoidance.
Avoidances here and there. If there's anything, do you know that there was a time that I was even thinking, people who own, like it's been done abroad, luxurious cars, but not used, should even pay taxes on it.
And in your houses.
In your houses. Because you see people having houses everywhere, nobody's living inside, and it's just there like that. If taxes are paid,
I'm afraid we might have to pay tax on this program right now if we do not take a quick break so we can bring you the AM news, of course, the rest of Global Morning with extra papers, and our guests bringing us to big conversations this morning will come your way shortly. Do stay with us, everyone. Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofrebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony.